For 10 years, my mother burned every letter I sent to Grandpa, telling him I was a drug addict who didn't care about him, just so she could secure his $500,000 inheritance. At the will reading, she laughed at me and said, "He died knowing you were a disappointment." Then the bank manager silently turned his laptop screen around and pressed play on a video file titled, "The Truth About My Daughter." But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand the sheer magnitude of the silence in that room, you have to understand the noise that came before it. The sheer, overwhelming noise of my mother's victory lap. It started at the funeral. 3 days before the reading. The service was held at St. Jude's. The heavy oak pews were packed. And there she was. My mother, Linda. Dressed in black silk that I knew for a fact cost $800 because I saw the tag in her trash can. She was weeping into a handkerchief. A performance worthy of an Oscar. I stood in the back, near the heavy double doors. I wasn't allowed in the family pew. Linda had made that clear via a text message sent at 6:03 a.m. that morning. "Don't cause a scene," she wrote. "Sit in the back. He wouldn't want a junkie in the front row. I haven't touched a drug in my life. I drink peppermint tea. I run 5 Burmese chots. I work as a freelance graphic designer." But facts didn't matter to Linda. The narrative did. As the casket was lowered, she threw a single white rose onto the mahogany. A dramatic gesture. She leaned into my stepfather, Greg, a man whose primary contribution to society was playing golf and spending money he didn't earn, and sobbed loud enough for the back row to hear. "I'm going to miss him so much," she wailed. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I was too busy counting. I was counting the lies. Lie number 1, that she visited him. She hadn't seen Grandpa in 6 months before he passed. She was too busy vacationing in Cabo. Lie number 2, that she cared about his legacy. She had already called a realtor to appraise his house. The 3-bedroom ranch on Elm Street. The one he built with his own hands in 1978. Lie number 3, the big one. The one that hung over my head like a guillotine. The lie that I had abandoned him. After the service in the parking lot, she cornered me. The October wind was biting. It whipped her expensive hair around her face. "Don't expect anything on Thursday," she said. Her voice was low. Dangerous. The Weeping Widow Act was gone. Dropped like a heavy coat. The lawyer said it straightforward. Everything goes to the primary caregiver. "That's me." "You weren't his caregiver," I said. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking in my pockets. "You hired a nurse, Maria. You paid her minimum wage and visited once a month." Linda smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of a shark that smells blood in the water. "And where were you, Maya?" "Oh, that's right. Working on your art. Probably high in some basement." She stepped closer. "He died heartbroken, you know. He asked about you. I had to tell him the truth. That you couldn't be bothered. That you were unwell." My stomach twisted. A cold, sharp knot of rage. "You told him I was an addict," I whispered. "I told him what he needed to hear to let go," she said. He checked her watch. "Rolex. Thursday. 10 a.m. Don't be late. I want this over with so I can book the contractors. The kitchen in that old house is a disaster." She walked away. Her heels clicked on the asphalt. Click, click, click. The sound of a countdown. I stood there in the cold, watching her get into her leased Mercedes. She thought she had won. He thought the game was over. She had no idea I had already spoken to the bank manager. Segment 2 to 600 words. Let's talk about the money. $500,000. To some people that's lottery money. To Wall Street types it's a bad Tuesday. But to Grandpa? That was 50 years of sweat. He was a master carpenter. He saved everything. He drove a 2004 Ford Ranger until the wheels fell off. He fixed his own plumbing. He mended his own clothes. He put every spare cent into a diversified portfolio that he called his Freedom Fund. "Money isn't for buying things, Maya," he used to tell me. "It's for buying choices." Linda didn't see choices. She saw things. In the 48 hours between the funeral and the will reading, the parasites, that's Linda and Greg, went on a spree. They didn't have the money yet, but they had the credit cards and they had the certainty. I know this because Linda shares everything on Facebook. Tuesday, 2 p.m. Photo of a brand new hot tub. Caption: "Self-care is so important during grief." #healing. Cost? Roughly $6,000. Wednesday 11 a.m. A screenshot of a flight itinerary to Italy. First class. Taking some time to process the loss. Estimated cost, $12,000. Wednesday 4 p.m. A picture of Greg at a dealership sitting in a Porsche Cayenne. Caption, thinking about upgrading. Life is short. They were spending the inheritance before the ink was dry on the death certificate. Made me sick. Physically sick. I sat in my studio apartment, which Linda called the crack den, eating instant ramen and watching them burn through Grandpa's life work. My apartment wasn't a crack den. It was small. 400 square feet. But it was mine. My paintings lined the walls. Large, abstract canvases filled with blues and grays. I paid my rent by designing logos for tech startups and doing book covers for indie authors. I wasn't rich. I had $1,200 in savings. I drove a Honda Civic with a dent in the bumper. I was honest. And I was banned from the house. That was the hardest part. The house on Elm Street. I drove past it the night before the reading. The lights were off. It looked lonely. That house was my sanctuary. When I was 12 and Linda was on her third divorce, I practically lived there. Grandpa taught me how to sand wood. How to stain oak. How to respect the grain. You have an artist's eye, Maya, he told me once. We were building a birdhouse. You see things other people miss. I parked down the street and just watched the house. I remembered the last letter I sent him. 3 weeks ago. Dear Grandpa, I got a commission for a mural downtown. It pays well. I'm sending you a photo of the sketch. I hope you're okay. Mom says you're sleeping a lot and don't want visitors. I miss you. Please tell Mom to let me come over. Love, Maya. I sent it certified mail. Just like the last 10. And just like the last 10, the tracking showed delivered. Signed for by Al Peterson. Linda. Grandpa never saw it. I knew this because I tried to call him 2 days after I sent it. Linda answered his landline. He's confused, Maya, she said, her voice fake sweet. He thinks you're asking for money again. It upsets him. Please stop writing. I sent a picture, I said. Of my art. I threw it out, she said. Casual. Like she was talking about junk mail. He doesn't need to see that weird stuff. It scares him. She hung up. Sitting in my car looking at the dark house, I realized something. It wasn't just greed. It was hate. She hated that I had a connection with him that she didn't. She hated that I was an artist, something she considered useless. She wanted to erase me. But she made a mistake. A critical, arrogant mistake. She assumed Grandpa was stupid. She assumed that because he was 82 and used a walker, his brain had stopped working. She assumed that because she controlled the mailbox and the landline, she controlled the world. She forgot about the internet. And she definitely forgot about Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was the branch manager at the local credit union. He was a man made of beige. Beige suits. Beige ties. Beige office walls. He looked like the kind of guy who organized his sock drawer by color and fabric density. Linda had dismissed him years ago. A glorified teller, she called him. She moved her own accounts to a big national bank with a shiny app and aggressive fees. But Grandpa stayed. He liked Mr. Henderson. He said Mr. Henderson looked him in the eye and shook his hand firmly. A firm handshake tells you everything, Maya, Grandpa used to say. I had a meeting with Mr. Henderson exactly 4 hours before the funeral. I walked into the credit union on Tuesday morning. My hands were sweating. I felt like an imposter. I was the drug addict granddaughter. The failure. What if Linda had gotten to him too? What if she had poisoned this well? I sat in the beige chair across from his beige desk. I'm Maya, I said. John's granddaughter. Mr. Henderson looked up. He adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses. He didn't smile. He didn't frown. He just looked at me. Intense scrutiny. Like he was trying to solve a math problem. I know who you are, he said. His voice was dry. Your mother called me. Yesterday. She demanded access to the accounts immediately. Said she needed to pay for the funeral. My heart sank. Oh. I told her no, Mr. Henderson said. I looked up. You did. I told her that until the death certificate is filed and the will is read, nobody touches a dime. Expressed her displeasure. She screamed at you, I guessed. She threatened to have my job, he corrected. And she called me a few names I won't repeat. He opened a drawer and pulled out a file. It wasn't a digital file. It was a thick manila folder. Old school. Your grandfather came to see me, Mr. Henderson said. 6 months ago. Just before he got really sick. He had Maria the nurse drive him here. He said it was an emergency. Linda didn't know? Mrs. Peterson was in Cabo at the time, I believe. I nodded. He brought me something, Mr. Henderson said. He tapped the folder. And he gave me very specific instructions. He said, if Linda comes in here acting like she owns the place, you wait. You wait until the official reading. And then you play this. Mr. Henderson reached into the folder and pulled out a USB drive. It was silver. Small. Innocuous. What is it? I asked. I haven't watched it, Mr. Henderson said. He asked me not to. He just said it was the truth. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And for the first time his expression softened. He also gave me this. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a printout. A grainy black and white printout. It was my website. My portfolio. He asked me to print it for him, Mr. Henderson said. He didn't have a computer at home. Linda took it away, said it was too confusing for him. So he came here. He sat in my office for 2 hours asking me to click through your paintings. He made me zoom in. Tears pricked my eyes. Real tears this time. He saw them. He saw everything, Maya, Mr. Henderson said. He talked about the blue one. The one with the jagged lines. He said, that's how I feel. That's my grief. I covered my mouth. I had painted that piece, Blue Noise, right after Linda banned me from the house. He knew, I whispered. He knew, Mr. Henderson confirmed. He knew you were writing. He knew you were working. And he knew Linda was lying. Mr. Henderson stood up. He put the USB drive back in the folder. The reading is Thursday? He asked. Yes. At the lawyer's office. Highsmith and Partners. I'll be there, Mr. Henderson said. I'm the executor. Linda thinks she's the executor, I said. Mr. Henderson allowed himself a very small, very dry smile. Mrs. Peterson thinks a lot of things, he said. Thursday is going to be a very educational day for her. Thursday morning arrived with gray skies and a threat of rain. I dressed carefully. No black. I wore a navy blue blazer and clean jeans. I wore my artist boots, paint-splattered Doc Martens. Linda hated them. That's why I wore them. I arrived at Highsmith and Partners at 9:55 a.m. The office was glass and steel. Intimidating. It smelled like leather and expensive cologne. Linda and Greg were already there. They sat on one side of the long mahogany conference table. Linda was wearing sunglasses indoors. Greg was scrolling on his phone looking bored. When I walked in, Linda pulled her sunglasses down. You're late, she snapped. It's 9:55, I said. The meeting is at 10 o'clock. Sit at the end, she commanded, pointing to a chair far away from them. And don't say anything stupid. Mr. Highsmith is a very important man. I sat. I placed my hands on the table. I didn't look at her. I looked at the painting on the wall. A generic abstract print. Hotel art. Soulless. At 10 a.m. exactly, the door opened. Mr. Highsmith walked in. He was exactly what you'd expect. Slicked back hair, expensive suit, weary eyes. He looked like he charged by the second. But behind him walked Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was carrying a beaten-up leather satchel and a laptop. Linda sat up straighter. What is he doing here? She demanded. She pointed a manicured nail at the bank manager. I told you we're moving the accounts. We don't need the credit union involved. Mr. Highsmith cleared his throat. He looked uncomfortable. Actually, Mrs. Peterson, the lawyer said, shuffling some papers. Mr. Henderson is the named executor of the estate. The silence that followed was heavy. Excuse me. Linda laughed. A sharp, barking sound. That's ridiculous. Dad's will, the one from 2015, names me. I'm his only child. That will was revoked, Mr. Highsmith said. He didn't look at her. He looked at his papers. Your father filed a new will. 6 months ago. It was notarized at the credit union. Linda's face went pale. The makeup stood out on her skin like chalk. He was incompetent, she hissed. He was senile. He didn't know what he was doing. I have doctors who will testify. I have a video, Mr. Henderson interrupted. His voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a knife. He set his laptop on the table. He opened it. He didn't rush. He plugged in the silver USB drive. He adjusted the screen so it was facing Linda and Greg. What is this? Greg asked, finally looking up from his phone. Is this a joke? No joke, Mr. Henderson said. This is illegal, Linda sputtered. She stood up. I don't consent to this. I am the next of kin. I demand. Sit down, Linda, I said. It was the first time I had spoken since I entered the room. My voice was calm. Scarily calm. She looked at me shocked. What did you say to me? I said sit down. I looked her dead in the eye. And watch. She sat. Not because she wanted to, but because she was stunned. The air in the room had shifted. The gravity had moved. Mr. Henderson pressed the spacebar. The video player opened. The timestamp was from April 14th. 6 months ago. The image was grainy. It was clearly recorded on a webcam in Mr. Henderson's office. The background was the beige wall. And there was Grandpa. He looked thin. Frail. He was wearing his favorite flannel shirt, the red one with the hole in the elbow. He was sitting in the beige chair I had sat in on Tuesday. He looked straight into the camera. His blue eyes were sharp. Clear. There was no fog of dementia. There was only focus. Is this thing on? Grandpa asked in the video. It's on, John. Mr. Henderson's voice came from off camera. Grandpa took a deep breath. He leaned forward. My name is John Miller, he began. And I am of sound mind. I know what day it is. It's Tuesday. I know who the president is. And I know exactly what my daughter is doing. In the conference room, Linda gasped. A strangled, wet sound. Linda, video, Grandpa said. He seemed to be looking right at her. If you're watching this, I'm dead. And you're probably sitting there in a nice dress, acting sad. You're probably thinking about my money. You're probably thinking about how you're going to remodel the kitchen. Linda's hand flew to her mouth. I know you stopped giving me Maya's letters, Grandpa continued. His voice hardened. I know you burned them. I saw the ash in the fireplace, Linda. I'm old, not blind. I felt a tear slide down my cheek. He knew. I know you told Maya I didn't want to see her, Grandpa said. And I know you told me she was on drugs. You told me she was stealing from me. You tried to make me hate my own granddaughter. He shook his head. A look of profound disappointment crossed his face. You're a liar, Linda. You've always been a liar. You lied about the cost of your car. You lied about your job. And you lied about my family. This is fake, Linda whispered. She was shaking. This is a deep fake. Yeah. Someone made this. Shoo, Greg hissed. He was staring at the screen, mesmerizingly horrified. I have spent the last 6 months, Grandpa said, pretending to believe you. Pretending to be confused. Because I needed time to move the assets. Move the assets? Linda froze. I sold the stocks, Linda, Grandpa said. A small, mischievous smile appeared on his face. The portfolio? Gone. Cashed out. No, Linda moaned. No. That's $500,000. And the house. Grandpa continued. I put the house in a trust. An irrevocable trust. He can't do that, Linda screamed at the lawyer. That's my inheritance. Mr. Highsmith just shrugged. It was his property, Mrs. Peterson. So here is the breakdown, Grandpa said. He held up a finger. To my daughter Linda. I leave the contents of the garage. Specifically the old lawnmower and the rusty paint cans. Because you like to paint over the truth so much. I leave you $0. 0 cents. And 0 real estate. The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear the hum of the air conditioner. And to my granddaughter Maya, Grandpa said. His eyes softened. He reached toward the camera, touching the screen. The only honest soul in this family. I leave the trust. The house is yours, Maya. The money from the stocks is in an account in your name. Mr. Henderson has the details. Keep painting, kiddo, Grandpa said. His voice cracked slightly. I saw the mural sketch. The one with the birds. It's beautiful. Don't let them stop you. Don't let them tell you who you are. He sat back. That's it. That's the will. Goodbye, Linda. Try to be a better person. But I won't hold my breath. The screen went black. For 10 seconds nobody moved. Then the explosion. This is fraud. Linda shrieked. She stood up so fast her chair tipped over. He was manipulated. She did this. She pointed a trembling finger at me. She poisoned his mind. Mr. Highsmith stood up. Mrs. Peterson, please control yourself. I want that money, she screamed. Her face was red, distorted, ugly. The mask was fully off now. I have debts. I booked tickets. I put a deposit on a Porsche. That sounds like a you problem, I said. I didn't yell. I didn't have to. The power had shifted. I felt it in my bones. I wasn't the broke drug addict daughter anymore. I was the owner of the house she was standing in, metaphorically speaking. Mr. Henderson, I said, turning to the bank manager. What is the total value of the trust? Mr. Henderson opened a spreadsheet on his laptop. He adjusted his glasses. After the liquidation of the portfolio and the accrued interest, he said calmly, the cash assets total $522,480. Plus the property value of the home, estimated at $350,000. Linda looked like she was going to vomit. $800,000, Greg whispered. He looked at Linda with pure disgust. You told me it was a sure thing. You told me to buy the car. Shut up, Greg. Linda snapped. She turned to Mr. Highsmith. I'm contesting this. I'll sue. I'll drag this out for years. She won't see a penny. Mr. Highsmith sighed. He looked very tired. You can try, Mrs. Peterson. But the video is admissible. We also have a signed affidavit from his doctor, dated the same day, certifying his mental competency. And he paused. The trust is already active. The house legally belongs to Maya as of this morning. Technically, if you go there, you're trespassing. Linda slumped. She physically deflated. She fell back into her chair, which Greg had righted, and put her head in her hands. I need that money, she sobbed. I'm broke. The credit cards, the mortgage on the condo. I looked at her. I looked at the woman who had burned my letters, who had told a dying man I was a junkie, who had isolated him to steal his legacy. I felt nothing. No pity. No guilt. Just a cold, clean sense of balance. You should probably cancel the trip to Italy, I said. I stood up. I picked up my bag. Mr. Henderson, I said. Thank you. For everything. It was my pleasure, Maya, he said. He winked. A tiny, unbeige wink. I walked to the door. Maya. Linda called out. Her voice was desperate now. Maya, wait. We're family. We can work something out. I'm your mother. I stopped. I turned around. I looked at her one last time. No, I said. You're the lady who got the lawnmower. I'd go pick it up soon if I were you. I'm changing the locks on the house tomorrow. I walked out. The aftermath wasn't explosive. It was a slow, grinding destruction of their facade. I didn't see Linda again for 6 months. I heard about her, though. Small towns talk. The Porsche went back to the dealership. Greg left her 3 weeks later. Turns out his love was directly tied to her net worth. She had to sell her condo to pay off the credit card debt she racked up during her pre-spending spree. She moved into a small apartment on the south side. I heard she's working as a receptionist at a dental office. As for me, I moved into the house on Elm Street. I didn't renovate the kitchen. The kitchen is fine. It smells like Grandpa's coffee and sawdust. I like it. I did turn the garage into a studio, though. I cleared out the rusty paint cans, Linda never came for them, and put in skylights. The money sits in the account. I haven't touched the principal. I use the interest to pay the bills and buy supplies. It buys me exactly what Grandpa said it would. Choices. I chose to quit the graphic design gigs I hated. I chose to paint full-time. Last week I finished the mural downtown. It's huge. 20 feet high. It depicts a pair of hands building a birdhouse, and inside the birdhouse, a galaxy of stars. I dedicated it to John Miller. Yesterday I found something in the attic. I was cleaning out some old boxes and I found a stack of letters. They were my letters. The ones Linda burned? She hadn't burned all of them. She had kept a few hidden in a box labeled, Tax Returns 2018. Maybe she kept them as trophies. Maybe she just forgot. I sat on the floor and read them. Dear Grandpa, I got an A in art class. Dear Grandpa, I met a guy, I think you'd like him. I cried for a while. For the lost time. For the conversations we never had. But then I remembered the video. I remembered his eyes. I saw the mural sketch. It's beautiful. He saw me. Even through the wall she built, he saw me. I walked out to the mailbox at the end of the driveway. It was a sunny day. The air was crisp. I checked the mail. A bill. A flyer for pizza. And a letter from the credit union. It was a statement for the trust. I opened it. The balance was bold at the bottom. But included in the envelope was a handwritten note on beige stationery. Maya, your grandfather asked me to give you this 1 year after he passed. He said you'd know what to do with it. Henderson. It was a small key. A safety deposit box key. I stared at it. Another secret? Another layer to the man I thought I knew? I smiled. I got in my Honda, I still drive it, it's a good car, and headed to the bank. Whatever was in that box, I knew one thing for sure. It wasn't for Linda. And that was enough for me. Update. 1 year later. I know people always ask, was it worth it? Was it worth the family drama? Was it worth being the outcast at Thanksgiving? Not that I was invited. Yes. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes justice is just a quiet house, a paid-off car, and the ability to sleep at night. I saw Linda at the grocery store yesterday. She was in the frozen food aisle. She looked older. Harder. She was wearing a coat I didn't recognize. Something cheap polyester. She saw me. He saw the paint on my jeans. She saw the calm in my face. For a second I thought she was going to scream. Or cry. Or ask for money. But she just looked at her cart, turned her wheel and walked the other way. She knows. She knows she traded her father and her daughter for a lifestyle she couldn't afford and ended up with neither. I paid for my groceries. Organic spinach, fancy cheese, peppermint tea. I used the debit card connected to the Freedom Fund. I walked out into the sunshine. I had a painting to finish. And Grandpa? I talk to him every day. I talk to him while I paint. And sometimes when the light hits the dust motes in the studio just right, I swear I can smell sawdust. The underdog won. The good guys won. And the lawnmower? It's still on the curb.